The death of Kakashi's father, better known as the legendary White Fang of Konoha, is something that many fans acknowledge as being one of the biggest turning points in Kakashi's lifetime. It hardened the young heart so drastically that his ideals changed and he became a person who put obeying the rules above anything else, even the lives of his teammates. For a very young Kakashi, putting the mission first is all that ever mattered. However, as we all know, over time, due to the many losses that Kakashi suffered, his worldview changed. Though the Naruto manga gave us glimpses into the darker period of Kakashi's life, we never actually saw the funeral of the White Fang or learned about what happened there, at least not until now. And I'll warn you, the disrespect being shown towards the White Fang at his funeral was very real, and I guarantee it will make a lot of you guys view how Kakashi changed after his father's death a lot differently. In today's edition of Kakashi Retsuden, we're gonna be exploring the very private and heartbreaking memory that Kakashi has of his father, a man whose power was said to rival and, according to some, even surpass those of the collective legendary sanin. Now, the information is given to us in the Kakashi Retsuden novel that explores the search for the cure for Hokage Naruto's deadly chakra illness. These novels take place between the Mujina Bandits arc and the Ao arc of the Boruto timeline. Naruto's health has declined so much so and so rapidly that even light sparring with his son triggers heart attack-like symptoms, and Naruto struggles to hide this from his son Boruto and his daughter Himawari. If a cure can't be found, the very same illness that the Sage of Six Paths once suffered from could end up killing Naruto, which is why Kakashi is the very first to head out on a mission to the land of Ridaku in order to find a clue for a cure for Naruto's illness. Shortly after Kakashi begins his mission, Sasuke Uchiha and Sakura depart for Ridaku to search in another part of the country that has strong ties to the Sage of Six Paths. Each of these three ninja, over the span of 30 long days of non-stop travel, were forced to carry a very heavy and very real burden of knowing that if they took too long to find a cure, then the 7th Hokage of Konoha could wind up dead before they return back to the village. It's during this mission that Kakashi, while accompanying the prince and rightful ruler of Ridaku, Prince Nanara, Kakashi has a moment where he reflects on the funeral of his father. It's in this moment that we learn just how heartbreaking the disrespect that the White Fang endured at his funeral actually was. So what I'll do for you guys now is read the scene from the novel, and then I'll come back to you guys with my thoughts, and it's here I'm gonna begin quoting. "I was so strong, but I couldn't face it. I was too weak back then." He could still hear the voices of the people who attended his father's funeral. Kakashi himself was sitting at the back of the room while the attendees were burning incense. "You know, I don't think that we killed him though. It's not our fault." Kakashi looked wide-eyed at the companion that his father saved and was now turning against him. "You know, I didn't ask him to do it, but he stopped the mission on his own. This is all his fault. And think about it. The last thing that this guy does, he has self-harm. He commits suicide." "Yeah, tell me about it. What a terrible man." Kakashi said nothing to either of them. There were many people who spoke kindly and highly of his father as well, but there were just as many people talking about what was right and what was wrong, talking about how he made the wrong decision. Kakashi felt like he was going crazy. End quote. What stands out here is that you have a moment where Kakashi, as he's reflecting, he states that he was so strong back then, but he was too weak to face the insults that were being thrown at his father. It really makes you realize that for all of Kakashi's genius at the time, with skill levels bordering on being on the levels of a Jonin, Kakashi was still just a kid who still needed his father, and he needed somebody to guide him. Kakashi had just lost his father, who we know from the brief manga and extended anime flashbacks, Kakashi absolutely adored his father. Kakashi had listened to his father's former teammates flat out call him a terrible man, even though he had saved their lives. They made excuses saying that they never told him to stop the mission, and they implied that by taking his own life, he was terrible. For Kakashi to be sitting at the back of the room while the attendees burned incense and listen to one person after the other insult his father, more of them insulting than actually talking kindly of him, his father, who hadn't even been dead for a week, it spun his young and very influential mind completely out of control. Gone was the young boy with a bit of happiness in his heart, and it was now replaced by an angry child who was rapidly descending into a way of darkness while he struggled to cope with what happened. His line about struggling to understand what was right and wrong, it was absolutely telling. His father's lessons were ingrained so deeply into him that they shaped him up to that point, and yet not many people seem to honor or applaud the fact that his father had saved his comrades' lives. People his father once called friends and comrades practically spit on his grave by openly lashing verbal insults at his memory. You have to remember that during this part of the third Hokage's rule of Konoha, things weren't like they were after the Third Great Ninja War, where after Minato died, Hiruzen Sarutobi became the kind and nurturing Hokage that we saw very early on in the Naruto manga, when Naruto Uzumaki was growing up. During this time period, putting the mission first is what mattered most. Failure on certain types of missions was not an option, was not something that could be accepted, especially for a ninja of the White Fang's caliber. A ninja's worth was determined in how he helped support the village by completing missions. Ninja were nothing more than tools that needed to be used and they needed to be discarded once they outlived their usefulness. However, despite all this, we do know that there was a growing number of younger shinobi who shared the ideals of the White Fang, who believed that a comrade's life was more important than the actual mission. Ninja like Minato Namikaze, who at the time was becoming a heavy favorite to become the next Hokage, and later on in the timeline, Obito Uchiha would view the White Fang's sacrifice in the correct manner, shaping the way Kakashi viewed things in the future. However, that's gonna be it for this installment of Kakashi Retsuden. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you think that these people were right when they're talking down on the White Fang, or do you think they should have waited to levy their criticism? Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.